Hey everyone, welcome back to Bagel TCG. Today we're going to be doing a deck tech for Florian, the Rotwood Harbinger. You might have seen my tier list video where I said he is going to win the Calling London, that he's like a sleeper dark horse pick. I really do think that. I put a lot of games into him and he seems really strong with very few bad matchups. So I'm going to first talk about his matchup spread, why you would bring Florian to the event, talk about his playstyle a bit, and then I'll just go into a further breakdown of the deck and all the cards in it if you want to see a deeper breakdown like that. First, let's talk about Florian, his matchup, stuff like that. So, Florian, he's the Elemental Runeblade hero, Essence of Earth. Earth is a bit more defensive. Runeblades are a bit more aggressive, which is, I think, why he's so well positioned. He does the best mid range in the format, being able to switch between aggro and defense um, in the middle of a game or via sideboard options. He's just very good at doing that. So I think he's very good at that. I think that lets him have a much wider, even matchup spread, and I think it positions him really well. Now, I know this is a tier list. It's not a tier list video. This is me talking about out of the popular decks, what he's good against and what he's bad against, right? This is just what I had open because I just made the tier list video. Uh, the heroes that he's good against, right? That are popular right now. He beats Aurora, which I think is pretty significant. It's not like a super high chance in terms of like it's not like 100% you're going to beat it every time. But I think I'm happy if I sit against an Aurora at the event, and I would be fairly confident I would win. Of course, Auroras can always high roll you, and you could also get a little unlucky. But I think if all goes normal, you'll beat the Aurora. And when I'm talking about matchups, that's usually like if all goes normal, right? Any deck can high roll, any deck can low roll. We're playing card games with RNG. Um, this is more like if you averaged out 100 games, which deck would win more often. So take that in mind. It's not like you're going to sit down and win every time. Now, I think Enigma is a little unfavored. This is like how favored you are. So I guess Aurora would be like, B is like 50-50. We'll put like 50-50, and then favored, and then super favored, and then unfavored, and then never win. Um, I think Enigma is a little unfavored, but I do think you have a chance. You have a lot of ways to disrupt their auras. You have aggressive potential. We'll get into that when I break down the cards in the deck, but I don't think it's so bad. It's not never win, right? And I think if you were playing Jarl, which I think a lot of people who want to play Florian would have played a defensive deck, because Florian to me is kind of like a Arcane Guardian. That's how he feels, at least when you play him. And I'm a huge Guardian player. I've played Bravo at most Pro Tours, and I really like Guardians. So yeah, I that's why I like Florian so much. But I think the Guardians, like Jarl, have a full never win 0% chance into Enigma, and with Florian you can actually beat them because you have the aggro potential uh, from the Runeblade cards. So that's already a big plus that it's not in this category and it's in this category. Now, super favored. That's the thing. There's not like a lot of stuff you're super favored into. I think any, you know, I don't know. I wouldn't say anything super favored unless uh, unless they're just bad or it's like a less common deck. I think that you almost cannot lose versus Jarl and Verdance. So I guess I would put those in super favored. But it's like those might go to draw before you actually win. So that's the downside. But I don't think you'll ever lose these games. You'll just win them or draw them. And then the really that's not who I meant to put there. The really never win. I think the only one is Kano. Maybe you could say Pistol Dash, but I think Pistol Dash you might have a chance into because you do have a lot of aggressive potential and you have some arcane that they'll struggle to interact with. Um, Meaning like Channel Millennium Tree. Unfortunately, we don't have item disruption. We just have aura disruption. So Pistol Dash is like in between unfavored and never win, but I'll still put her in unfavored. Aggro Dash we're favored into. I think we're favored into basically all the aggro decks. So also Syndra, also Dash IO. I think you're favored into all of the assassins. I don't care enough about that assassin. Who am I? Where am I missing new? I think you're favored into all of the assassins. Prism, I think maybe you're slightly unfavored into. Just if they're on more auras, you do have the Guardian issue of sometimes having action points, only like one action point, which is kind of a problem. Generally, you're fine. I think you're favored into Zen's maybe more of a 50-50, but I think you're favored into Vincent as well. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that's like a relevant deck here. You're favored into Ira. None of these decks are gonna really see play, I think. You're probably favored into almost everything else here. Like I think that because you're such a high value deck, most decks in the format you'll be favored into. And I know that sounds silly, but it's like your cards are getting like almost every card gets like 4 to 5 value. And it's just really hard for any other deck to keep up with that. And like in worst case scenario, you can just block 9 and swing your weapon for 5 over and over. And a lot of decks can't beat that either. So I think you just have this like general value plan that you're really good at. Like you're also probably super favored into Fang. They often don't play any arcane barrier, so you can just block out, kill them like that. This is like the matchup. Like I'm not gonna put every hero down here, especially because a lot of these aren't played. But this is why I would bring the hero. I think out of the ones I expect to see that are unfavored, it's really only Enigma. This is like the deck you're scared to sit across from. Of course, you're scared to sit across any of the unfavored decks, but I think you're not really going to see a ton of Prism and Dash, Pistol Dash. Probably also not a ton of Kano. You will see these decks, but they're not going to be like maybe you'll play one in the event. Hopefully, you don't play more than one. You might play 2 or even 3 Enigmas. Hopefully not. Hopefully you dodge them. But I think you could win one of those games as well. And then you're pretty happy to sit against any assassin, any aggro deck, basically. So this is why I would bring the deck. I think this is a pretty good matchup spread. I would be surprised if there's a deck with a better matchup spread. I think the only deck with a better matchup spread is probably Enigma. I think Enigma is the best deck in the format, but I don't like playing Illusionist. I'm a Guardian player. I like defensive decks. So if you are like me and you like more blocky defensive decks with disruptive pieces, this is probably the best. Probably, I think this is the best deck in the format for you. Now, that is the matchups and why you would play the deck. I'm now going to break down the cards in the deck and a little bit about the matchup strategies for each. So let's get into that. If you feel like you've seen why I'm playing the deck, that's enough. You can go, of course. But if you want to actually see a full breakdown of the deck, we're going to get into it here. Florian is a elemental runeblade. He can play runeblade cards. He can also play earth cards. He can also play elemental cards and generic cards. At the start of the game, he has no hero effect at all. He has to complete kind of a side quest to get there, where you have to have 8 or more earth cards in your banish zone. Once you have that, you get if you would create 1 or more aura tokens. Instead, you create that many plus 1 of each of those tokens. This is really strong because you have stuff like Grasp of the Arknight. This says make a rune chant token. If your hero ability is online, this will double that, so you will make 2 rune chant tokens. Really good because your weapon only cost 1 to attack for 3. So with a blue, you can pay 2 resources to make 2 rune chants, and then the last resource to attack with your weapon. So you will get 5 damage from 1 blue, which is really, really good. Even without it online, you're still getting 4 damage from 1 blue, which is good, but 5 damage is even better. The rest of the equipment suite, so we have Reaping Blade. This is just pretty basic weapon. It costs 1 and attacks for 3. It's just Runeblade weapons are pretty weak right now, and you have to play a weapon that costs 1. Otherwise, the Grasp of the Arknight doesn't work off of blue, so you do have to play a 1 cost attacking weapon. The second part of the hero ability sometimes is actually anti-synergy because you play some life gain. So blocking your own life gain kind of is annoying. But it does also make some matchups like the Counter Blessing decks get kind of wrecked by you because you just have something that turns off all your blessings. You do have to play around it. Like every turn, you have to think, I need to be at lower life than them. Like you have to constantly stay at lower life. Sometimes you will just take a dumb on hit to stay at lower life. But by doing this, you can kind of walk them down in life. And by the time you're at 5 and they're at 10, they have 0 counter blessings resolved. They're going to start clunking them a little bit. You can start letting them get lower, and they will just die before they can resolve their count your blessings for value. So it's a pretty strong weapon, but mostly just so that it swings for 3 with 1 resource, which is good enough. Rest of the equipment suite, we have Well Grounded. Instant speed, destroy this, prevent the next 2 damage that would be dealt to you this turn. Activate this only if there are 4 or more earth cards in your banish zone. pretty great. Of course, this one is part of your little side quest to turn on, but it's basically a D-react on your feet. You can just destroy this to block 2 damage. It's prevent, which is even better, so you can stop stuff like flick knives, you can stop arcane damage. It's spread out over multiple attacks, so if they attack for 1 into 1, for example, with 2 daggers, you can block both of those. Just really, really flexible, much better than just something that has 2 in the bottom. It's way, way more flexible than that. Face Purgatory blocks 2, but if you defend it with this and an attack action and a non-attack, you then draw a card and your opponent discards. Just pretty huge value swing, so you can block with a non-attack and an attack for up to 8 if the non-attack and the attack both block for 3. And then you will draw, so you'll already replace one of the cards you're blocking with, so that's already amazing. And then if they have a card in hand, they have to discard it. Huge value swing. It can get, if it's blocking and draw and discard, that's getting like 8 value just from the headpiece, which is really big. Sometimes you'll just have to block with it for 2 and nothing else. That's also not the end of the world. Bark Skin of the Millennium Tree. This is like your kind of late game armor piece. At the beginning, it just blocks for 2 and then blocks for 1. Once you're online, it'll make an Embodiment of Earth when you block with it. And once your hero ability is online, it'll make 2 Embodiment of Earth when you block with it. Those give your non-attacks +1 defense. So you can potentially block with each non-attack for 5, which is really, really strong. All of your equipment is basically really good. It's like all above rate equipment. I think equipment in general in Flesh and Blood is quite good right now. But I think Florian has one of the most impressive suites of equipment in the game. Sideboard equipment, we have Plume of Evergrowth. This is for matchups where they don't attack for big numbers. So like if they're attacking for like 3/3/3, you can't really use Face Purgatory effectively because you have to block for like 7 or 8 in one block. Also, if you're trying to be the aggressor, you don't really care about blocking. This lets you have more flexible hands. And then this is Arcane Barrier. Dietic Carapace is basically just for wizards and other Florians. Nullrun Boots is for Rune Blades and wizards. It's kind of self-explanatory, I guess, when you're going to play the Arcane. Now let's get into the deck. I have the Aurora matchup pulled up here because I think it's the most common deck you're going to play against. Into Aurora, we have a few different things we're doing, right? Or in general, of course, we're trying to get our hero ability online, so we need 8 or more Earth cards in your Vanish Zone. We're basically doing that through Decompose. Decompose is an ability on a lot of your cards. It says you may banish 2 Earth cards and an action card from your graveyard. If you do, this gets some effect. For example, these defense reactions that we're playing 6 of get +1 defense. But honestly, we care mostly about getting the banished part off. You're banishing 3 cards, right? The 2 Earth and 1 action. The action itself can also be an Earth card. So if you're doing the math, we're trying to get to 8, and we can banish 3, 3, 3. So we can banish, you have to banish 9 cards total over 3 decomposes. So we need to basically have 2 of those actions also be Earth cards. So we're banishing 9 cards. We need 8 of them to be Earth. That's the goal. One of those decomposes can have a generic action. That's totally fine. Or a Runeblade action, something else. But the other 2 decomposes really need to have all 3 cards be Earth. And that is the quickest way to get our hero ability online. It's what you basically want to do every time. It's okay to wait on a decomposed card for an extra turn or 2, stick it in Arsenal, and wait until you've blocked with some more of your Earth cards. That's usually the way you're going to get them into your graveyard, is just blocking with them. Of course, sometimes it's going to be through playing with them, playing them out, but mostly with blocking them. So that's how you're going to decompose. We have some attacks that decompose as well. Most notably is Felling of the Crown. This is the strongest card in your deck, probably. Costs 3, attacks for 4, but if you have 4 or more Earth cards, it gets +4, so it'll attack for 8. This even counts if you did it by decomposing with it. So if you started with only 2 Earth cards and then you decompose 2 or 3 more, it'll check it always, so it'll go up to 8. When you decompose with it, you and your opponent both put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. Of course, you will hopefully have no cards in your hand at this point, because you'll have pitched a blue for this and played this and have probably blocked with your other 2 cards or played them. So you're getting basically 11 to 12 value from this, just off 2 cards. Really, really strong. Usually want to try to play these out if you can. And then Plow Under is a lot weaker. It's only 6 damage instead of 8, and it makes it so you each bottom your arsenal. It's a little more clunky because sometimes you have an arsenal like a D-React that you really want to keep. Also, sometimes they don't have an arsenal. So this one gets blocked with a lot more often, but it's still quite good. It's a Command and Conquer that they can't stop because they just have to bottom it. So it's still pretty good. Of course, we are playing Command and Conquer as well. Of course, you can see that's already 9 disruptive cards. We're playing 15 total disruptive cards because we're also playing Runic Reclamation. If it hits a hero, you destroy an aura they control. So this only works into some heroes that play auras, but for example, into Aurora, they play Channel Lightning Valley, which is like considered their strongest card, and so getting to destroy that if this hits is really nice. And also they have Embodiment of Lightning is off their hero ability, and you can destroy those as well because it also works on tokens. If you destroy it, you also get a rune chant. If your hero ability is online, you get 2 rune chants, so it can be up to 9 value plus destroying their thing. So very good. Summer's Fall decomposes and then bottoms an aura they control. Pretty good as well. They don't get to stop this one. It's not an on hit, but it only attacks for 6, so a little give and take there. I don't love Summer's Fall, but I think it's necessary evil into Aurora. That is most of the plan. You can see we just have a bunch of blues after that, a lot of earth cards so we can block with them and get them into our graveyard. Some non-attacks because they synergize well with the embodiments of earth that we're going to get off of Barkskin. You can also sometimes get embodiment of earths off of Sigil of Earth here. So you want a decent number of 3-block non-attacks. We have some more defense reactions with Shelter from the Storm and Sink Below, just because they're really good defense reactions. And then these 3 cards are the last ones I haven't mentioned. You're usually blocking with these. We mostly play them because they're earth cards that block 3. So into aggro, you're almost always blocking with these. They are pretty hard to use against aggro because they cost 3, so it's 2 whole extra cards you have to keep. And usually it's better just to block for 6 with those 2 cards into aggro. But we're going to play them anyways because them being earth and blocking for 3 means they let us decompose a lot faster. But they're very good when we're trying to be aggressive. So we might not be playing them very often against aggro, but into something like Enigma where we are the aggressor, these are like your best cards basically. So that's what they're there for. Arcane Seed's Life is another 3-block earth, which is really nice. And once you're online, it's usually better to play it because it makes a rune chant token twice. And then gains a life. So it usually just makes you 2 and then gains a life. But if your hero ability is online, each instance of this makes 2 rune chants. So it'll make you 4 rune chants and gain a life, which is 5 value from 1 card. So really good there. That's basically the game plan into Aurora. You're mostly blocking with 2 cards. And then keeping 2 cards to swing, something like Command and Conquer, Felling of the Crown, Plow Under, any of your attacks. If you don't have one of these attacks, usually you're either blocking with all 4 cards, or you're going to block with 3 cards and then keep a blue to swing Grasp of the Arknight and Weapon. Into Enigma, that's the other matchup I'm going to talk about because that's when you switch to the aggro plan. You take out all of the defense reactions, so all 12. You bring in 12 Go Again cards. Scar for a Scar, Enlightened Strike, Rune Rager Swarm, Storming Gloomveil. These are there to synergize with Channel Mount Heroic. They let you pressure ward on the board that they will build, and they just let you pressure their life total a lot better. You really want to set this up with a 5-card hand, and you want to resolve at least 3 attacks with this to get 9 value out of the 2 cards you're using for Channel Mount Heroic. If you can keep it for like 2 or 3 turns, that's amazing. The more attacks you can swing with it, the better, obviously. But I think the minimum is you really want to try to swing at least 3 attacks to get +9 from this. And then Channel Millennium Tree is a lot better into Enigma. It'll amp 3, so it'll make your first rune chant swing for 4 arcane. And usually they don't run AB4, so you will blow up some ward with that guaranteed. Summer's Fall, really important to Arsenal or keep for later with Plume of Evergrowth to bottom their big mirror guys. But you'll kind of figure this matchup out as you play it. It's a little unfavored, but I think you can get there. And Channel Mount Heroic helps with that pressure a lot. That is going to be the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped you learn about Florian a bit. I'm going to try to write up a like Metafy guide for the deck. It will have like a small paywall, but I'll break down probably every matchup. Some of them is just going to say like C, for Betsy and Bravo, it might just be like the same guide, but it will break down basically every matchup, what cards to use, and the actual strategy. Because you can see I have some matchups on here, but I don't know if they're all updated, and also I don't have anything written for what to do. So that is not done, but I'm going to work on it and hopefully have it out in the next day or two before London. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, comment. I'll see you next time.